Afternoon, everyone. As it's 1 o'clock by my time already. All right. Thank you, Eileen, for responding. Okay, so today we'll be having an entirely new course that is related to our data journey. Because yesterday we had, last week we had principles of Microsoft Excel. We were able to ensure that our data are clean, and we also generated charts from our data. But this week we'll be moving on to the introduction to SQL and databases, and I assure you it's going to be very interesting because databases are one of another core important part of data analytics, and that is where we query databases and SQL. And this week we'll be having a new facilitator to take us through the SQL and databases fundamentals. His name is Olawale. He's a technical juggernaut when it comes to databases and SQL. So I won't be saying much. I'll bring him on board now to continue the process with us. Thank you so much, and let's just pay attention to him. If we have any questions, we can always leave our questions in the chat box. And I can assure you that we would all enjoy today's session with him. Right, so I'll stop sharing my screen now so Olawale can take over.
Good afternoon, everyone.
All right, good afternoon. We are all here and hearing you, so you can just continue.
Fantastic. My name is Olawale. Mr. John, please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen clearly.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you for that. My name is Olawale, and today we are going to be talking about one of the most interesting things in the tech world generally, not even in the data world. Because when you talk about AI, artificial intelligence, robotics, and anything you can think of, even the insight in your businesses, the fuel that which all of these things run on is data. And you cannot do that data without understanding the nitty-gritty of it and how it comes about. And that's what we are going to be talking about today. So today, like Mr. John said, we're talking about introduction to SQL and databases. So sit back and relax and enjoy this. It's one of the most interesting things you've ever come across. All right, so I'm going to be playing this video for you to have an introductory understanding of what we're going to talk about before we proceed.
Welcome to Softclue LMS again, and I'm excited to introduce you to one of the most powerful skills in today's digital world, SQL and databases. Now, don't worry if these words sound technical. By the end of this course, they will feel simple and familiar. Every time you use your phone, log into a website, shop online, or open a banking app, you are interacting with a database. A database is simply a place where information is stored in an organized way. Think of it like a digital filing cabinet that keeps records safe, neat, and easy to find. Instead of messy papers, databases use tables with rows and columns, just like a spreadsheet. And this is where SQL comes in. SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It is the language we use to talk to databases. With SQL, you can find information, add new records, update data, delete data, and answer important questions. For example, how many customers do we have? What products sold the most? Who signed up this month? SQL is used by banks, hospitals, schools, tech companies, and governments all around the world. It is one of the most in-demand skills in data, business, and technology. In this course, we will start from the basics, step by step, with simple explanations and practical examples. No experience needed, just curiosity and willingness to learn. Welcome to your SQL journey on Softclue LMS. Let's get started.
Fantastic. I hope we enjoyed that brief introduction with respect to what our young man had said in that place. So I'm going to be here to add flesh to everything that he has said. He mentioned, or not just that he mentioned, it is of a fact that database is a location where data is stored in a structured and organized format. Now, you cannot talk about a database without talking about basically the three formats of digital information. So it's either your information is stored in an unstructured format, is stored in a semi-structured format, or is stored in a structured format. Examples of structured formats. Okay, let's start with the unstructured. Now, looking at your emails, your WhatsApp texts, or any kind of messages you send, social media posts, images and videos and all kinds, they are not structured. They don't have a definite form, or they don't have a definite format. So you cannot call that a structured data, which means you cannot store such data in a database. If you cannot store it in a database, it means that you cannot relate with it using SQL or SQL, whichever way you prefer to, call it. We also have the semi-structured formats. Semi-structured formats are not entirely unorganized. They're not entirely rough, but they are halfway organized, which means that in order for you to also be able to analyze them into detail, you need to put them in a structured format. The highest form of organized data, or organized or structured data, is the one you find in a database. And when we're talking about these databases, we're talking about a lot of cleanings that has happened behind the scenes that now makes your financial record, that makes your customer profile, your sales transaction, even the likes of what you see in your Excel cleaned table. You can also call it a structured data. So now let's go back to talking about databases. Knowing that database is a location, or it's a place where structured information are being stored in an organized way. When you want to retrieve this information, there is a format in which you need to use to retrieve this information, and that is where SQL comes in. SQL is called structured query language. Remember that we're talking about database. We're saying that database is actually structured and it is organized. That is why you have to write your SQL, and that is the initiation or the invention of SQL, called structured query language. Now that you understand what database is, let's talk about the power of SQL and why you need SQL to be able to relate. In case you're thinking, why can't I just have this information stored in an Excel sheet? Now, this is not to run down what you do in your Excel, but remember that Excel has a minimum of 1 million rows. But in a database, you can store as much as 1 billion rows. You can store 10 billion rows. There is no limit to what you can store. And SQL is reusable, and it can always apply to whatever it is that you're doing. You don't need to worry about lock or limitation of what you find in the likes of SQL, in the likes of Excel. Now that we've talked about database, another way you can picture database, let's start with the physical picturing. Imagine when you have a drum in your house, or you have a bucket in your house, a bucket that contains a lot of content. Now imagine having to store those contents also in a different way. So having to repackage those contents into smaller bits. So imagine having little plastics, and you put all of those little plastics into a bucket. Now imagine your database as that bucket, that big bucket. Now imagine something called tables. Those tables are the little plastics that you put inside that bucket. Now, the interesting thing about database is that they are relatable. Those little plastics you're seeing that are inside those buckets, they are all linking to each other in one way or the other, in such that when you're writing your SQL, it is easy for you to relate from one table to another. So now, coming back to the electronic part, imagine database being a digital filing cabinet where you store all of your electronic information as files. So that's the best way to picture database in the physical world and then in the electronic world. In case you're wondering how these things work, let's go further to think about your banking application. When you want to request for your statement of account, or you want to request for a certain information within a particular period to a particular period, trust me, an SQL query is running at the background that you do not see. Whenever you click on apply, or whenever you click on submit, that is an SQL query running a transaction of yours within a particular time to a particular time. You remember when you want to request for your statement, or when you want to request for your banking transactions, you set a particular time and a particular time. Those times you're setting, you're telling SQL to limit it to a particular threshold. Healthcare as well. When you go into the hospital and you want to see a doctor, for instance, and then the doctor starts taking your vitals, or the nurse starts taking your vitals, your height, your age, your blood pressure, and all of that. All of this information are being taken and they are being stored into a database, so that when the doctor sees this information, he is able to relate to your historical, medical information, and he can easily, at a point, achieve or arrive at a conclusive way with respect to how you're feeling at the moment. You can talk about the social media, you can talk about the educational sector as well. Databases are very, very important. When you write your examinations, all of these results, all of these things are stored in a database. That's why when you lose some of this information, you can easily go back to the body responsible and then you can retrieve this information. Also at the government services, when you're talking about the police, any form of security agency, even the government itself, at the airport, all of this information, when you check into the country, when you're checking out of the country, all of this information collected are being stored in a database. And that is why it is easy for a certain person to be trackable within a certain period of time, provided the database is updated. Also, it is easy for you to scale in a database. You can improve it. The data integrity is consistent. It's certain. You have good access to it. How good you are with your SQL depends on how much you're going to enjoy your database. And then it has security. It's security in the sense that restricted or selected accesses to that information is being given to some certain kind of person. Imagine you go into the airport now, or you go into the police database. I mean, you won't be able to get into it except somebody gives you that permission. Unlike, imagine an Excel file that could just probably leak, or somebody can just easily find it and then circulate it across. Now, I already mentioned that SQL is a structured query language in which you can use to find these informations. The use of this SQL is not limited to finding alone, but it's also limited to doing a lot of analysis that draws insights. You can use it to update information in your tables, that's in your database. You can also use it to edit any kind of information. You can use it to manipulate information. So I'm going to be introducing us to. Now, let's talk about tables. Remember, we said the bucket is the database, while the containers that are inside those buckets are the tables. So we wouldn't be talking much about database or doing a lot of justice about it if we do not talk about columns and fields, columns and rows, rather. Now, look at a column as a vertical category of data. This is what defines the kind of information that is being stored in a table. I'm going to show you an example of it here right now. You can see year here, you can see category, you can see nominee, you see movie, and you see winner. Now, year can only be 2010, or it can only be numbers, which means that this is not going to take in anything such as actress in a leading role. You won't find that in year. That's part of the reasons you know that database is quite organized. What can only enter the year column is numbers. Now, category is there. This is also a column. It is a vertical category of the data, while the rows are the horizontal category of the data. Now, when you talk about rows, this is a row. All of this. Same 2010, actress in a leading role, Nicole Kidman, rabbit hole. Was it a winner, true or false? this is a row. Now, all of this information in this row, this horizontal category, contains information with respect to Nicole Kidman. Jennifer Lawrence has its own information as well. All of this information in this next row contains information with respect to Jennifer Lawrence. So that is how tables operate. So with a table, for you to have a table, you need a column, which is also a field, and you need a row, which is also called the record. All right, an example of this again, if you're going to look at it typically, imagine you have a student table, and then the name of the student is John Smith. You're going to have columns as name. You're going to have columns as age. So you're going to be having the name here. You're going to be having the age here. And then you're going to be having the class in this row, in this column. So you're going to have name as John Smith. You're going to have age as 15. Then you're going to have class as 10A. And that's how it's going to be, depending on how many columns or how many fields you want to have in that table. That is dependent on how the table has been designed. So now I would be happy to introduce you to an online compiler. This online compiler, feel free to run along with me, code along with me rather, as I use this online compiler to show you how to use database. Now, in these online compilers, for these online compilers, tables have already been created temporarily. So these tables rest online, and you can do anything you want. You can run your SQL query on it online. So you don't have to create any table here. You don't have to do any form of editing. Now, if you look at the right side of the pane, these are the customers. So we have customers, we have categories, these are the table names, and these are the number of records that we have. So here we have customers, categories, employees, other details, orders, products, shippers, suppliers. These are the table names that is present with respect to this compiler. And then we have records. How many records do we have in this customers table? We have 91 records. Categories 8, employees 10, 518 other details, 196 orders in total. What kind of product? How many products? We are talking about 77 products. Shippers is 3, suppliers is 29. Now, this is the very important part and the most interesting part that we have just got into. So just take a deep breath as we go into the SQL query proper. We are going to be talking today about the data query language, which is the select statement. That is the major statement, or this is the major keyword that you use to retrieve information from the database. Select statements helps you to fetch, once again, it helps you to retrieve information from the database. Now, another very important thing to note is the asterisk sign you're seeing here. This asterisk sign signifies all. So whenever you say select all from customers, these customers we're talking about here is the customers table that is stated in this place. That is why we're saying select all from customers. Select all is saying give me all the columns, or you can also say give me all the fields from the customers table. That's what it means. So I'm going to run it right now so you can see how it runs real time. So feel free to code along with me. So I'm going to click on this SQL run statement to run that information. So let me try to close this and then close this so that we can see. So I'm going to click on SQL run, and you can see the result is out. Number of records here is what? 91. Now, looking at this, you can see that we have how many fields here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That way, I have selected all fields from the customers table. And it has given me how many rows? 91 rows in total. 91 rows in total. Yes, the last entry here is Wolski. Now, I hope you're enjoying this now. Also, does it mean that anytime you want to ask an information from a particular table in a database, does it mean you need to select all? No, you don't have to. You have the freedom, you have the flexibility to request for the amount of columns that you want to see. All you need to just do is call them out. For instance, I want to see just customer name, I want to see contact name, and I want to see address from the customers table. I don't need to select all at this time. What I just need to do is I select customer name. So I copy here, I paste, so I'm going to copy customer name. Customer name is okay. I'm just going to have to type it then. Customer name. Now, this is me selecting customer name from the customers table. As you can see, it has returned 91 rows, but it's not giving me all the information in customer name, in the customers table. It's giving me just the customer name. Now, let us go back to selecting some certain columns again. So right now, I want to select customer name, I want the contact name, and I want the address from it. So I'll go by typing customer name, contact name, address from customers. Personally, I like to put my keywords in the next line for readability. So we'll be talking about keywords, and as we proceed, you're going to be understanding what we mean by keyword. Select is a keyword, from is a keyword. When you want to do further filtering, where is also a keyword, but then when we get there. So I like to start my keywords from the next line to enhance readability. So right now, I want to see customer name, contact name, and address from the table named customers. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to call it out just like I've called it out. And I'm going to click run. Now you can see that I have 3 information because those are the information that I want. So that's where I have the control. I want to see just 3 informations, and I have selected the 3 informations, and that's what you have here. Now, let's imagine that you actually want 90. You don't want 91 rows. You want, let's say you want just 20 rows from this information. You can actually do it, but note that the 20 information is not going to be in a particular order. You just want 20 information, no matter what it sounds like, no matter what the name is. I don't need 91 because I just need a sample. I just need 20 information. Doesn't mean you have to fetch all of the 91 information and now start picking out the 20 you need. Oh, no, you don't have to. So there are ways you can go about that. So this is how you can go about it. I'll go to select all. Let's assume I want all information now. And then I can just do limit 20. When I do limit 20, it gives me, okay, select all from customers, limit 20, should run. Okay, there's another way. First 20 rows only. So you can always do this. There is a possibility that this compiler, the online compiler, does not allow it, but I'm going to try this as well. Okay, if this doesn't work, okay, kindly note that the keyword limit 20 actually works. You can do limit 10, you can do limit 50, you can do limit 100, but the limits function actually works in all SQL. So kindly keep that as a note. I'll still keep trying this until
Yeah,
it works.
it works on the local SQL servers, and probably because of this is an online compiler.
Yes. Yeah, probably. Okay, now let's proceed and talk about.
Someone just asked the question.
Okay, that's fine. How
I
does
think
limits
Matthew just
work?
asked the question.
Yes, he said, how does limits work? Does it always bring back the same 20 records? I think that's a very fantastic question. It shows that you're following. Now, it doesn't always bring back the same 20 records. It brings back any 20 records at random. Yes, so if you run limit 20 now, you can run limit 20 again, and then it will not give you the same information it gave you earlier. So that's the difference, with limit 20. So that is just you requesting for 20 records at random, in no particular order, in no specific order. That's how it works. So, okay, Matthew, I hope that answers your question. All right, so now we're talking about select, and we're still on the select, the very interesting select. So moving forward, let's talk about filtering. It is a very important keyword in using SQL. So looking at these records, we have Germany. If you study this data, this 91 records, country, we have country called Germany. We have Mexico, we have UK, we have Sweden, and all that. Now, let us use the exact operator. Now we're talking about logic comparison operators. You cannot use the where filtering condition without talking about comparison operators. Now, what are comparison operators? It helps you to check, and it helps you to get the exact kind of information you're looking for from the table. It helps to filter accurately and correctly. Let's say, for instance, I want all information from the table customers, but I don't want all the information. I just want the information with respect to those that are in Germany. That is where the comparison operators comes in. So the first comparison operator we're going to be using with the where keyword is the equals to. So I want all of this information, but not just for everybody. I want it only for the guys in Germany. So I'm going to say select all from customers. Then I'm going to say where. This is where it works. Where country. You can see that all of these things we're doing, we're talking to the columns, we're talking to the field names, actually. So where country equals Germany, and then I will put it in quotes. Note something. When I was requesting for the country, I had to put Germany into a string. Now, when you want to address a certain content inside your table, you have to relate it. And especially when what you're talking about or what you're relating to is in alphabets, or it's an alphanumeric content, you have to put it in a string. So that's why we had to put Germany in a string. If I want to select anyone whose name, imagine I want to select Maria Anders, for instance. So I go like, but this time I will not be choosing country, I'm going to be choosing contact name. So Maria Anders. Now this is me going directly into the database because I know exactly what I am looking for. So I'm going to say where contact name equals Maria Anders. Okay, so let's take it back in case I'm going too fast. So what we did initially was we were trying to select all the countries, all customers' information with respect to those that are in Germany. And that's why we had to use the equals to comparison operators. Is that clear, please? Now, note that when you are trying to analyze or when you're trying to pick information like this, especially when you are using comparison operators, you need to know that there are two types of column. There is one that is called the categorical and one that is called the quantitative. The categorical are columns that describes a certain information, while the quantitative are things that contains numbers. The postal code, for instance, falls in between the categorical and also the quantitative. Quantitative because it contains numbers. You can add it, you can sum it. But you know that if you sum up this postal code right now, I mean, it won't make much sense because, I mean, it's postal code. I mean, so postal code is also addressing a certain location. That's why it falls in between both. But when you're having things that have to do with amount or, amount especially, or count, or, things that you can sum, things that you can aggregate, things that you can find the average or the median or the mean, these are quantitative columns. You cannot find the average of a contact name. Neither can you find the average of an address, except you have done some mathematical calculation on it. So this is very important to note. The reason I'm saying this is I want to do another kind of operator. Now, but while I do that, that is greater than or equals to. Remember, we have talked about equals to already. Now, okay, let us say I want to get all customers again because I want to reset us. Now, I want all information from the guys that are in the country Mexico. How will I go about it? I'll write select all from customers and I'll say where country equals Mexico. There's also one rule I would like you to know or to note. When you are trying to address a certain content, you need to know how the content is stored. For instance, in some SQL environments, if you write this Mexico in all capital letter, it most likely won't give you the result because it is not exactly understanding, because how Mexico is stored in the database is different from how you are requesting for it. So I will address it exactly the way it is spelled here. So, but then for the purpose of trial, let me see this and see if it works here. Okay, it came out because it's an online compiler, I guess. But most importantly, note this, it is something to note when you are running it. You need to request it just as it is stored. But I'm going to follow the standard practice and I'm going to use Mexico as it is written in the database. So this is still my result. All right. Having known this, I believe that you can use SQL now to address a certain information with respect to what you're looking for. Now, let us imagine that what I want now is not related to country. Now, I have gone back to all the customers, but I want only guys that their I only want one person, and the person I am looking for, his customer ID is 1. Note that the person with the unique customer ID, his name is Alfred Futtercase. That's his name. His contact name is Maria Anders. His address is Oberre Street 57. He lives in Berlin. That's his city. That's the postal code you're seeing there. And his country is Germany. But then let's imagine that I do not have the name, but I have the customer ID. You can also do this. You can say where customer ID equals 1, and I will run it. Note that when I did my customer ID equals 1, I did not put my 1 in strings like I did with the qualitative columns as the descriptive column. Yeah, that is because standard practice with SQL, when you are relating to numbers, you should not put them in a string. So it's very important to note these rules. Okay, now that I have Alfred and I know that he stays in Germany, so let's imagine that I want 10 people and I want the first 10 guys. I want only the people that have a customer ID from 1 to 10. How am I going to go about it? That is where the greater than or the less than operator comes in. Now, let's go and get that. I want only the people that have 10, that their customer ID is within 1 and 10. So I will do this with another kind of comparison operators. I will say where customer ID is less than 11. Should we run that? Let's go ahead. Now, that gives me only 1 to 10 people with the customer ID information. Now, going back to the question Matthew asked, here, if you write it from now till tomorrow, it will keep giving you the same information. Why? Because you have said you want the customer ID, you want guys or the people that their customer ID is less than 11. You can also use the less than or equals to. If I add equals to here, what will it do? It will include 11. So instead of giving me 10 records, it gives me 11 records. Let's run it. Why? Because you've said is either the information is less than 11 or it's equal to 11. So you've combined both. You've done two comparisons here. Now, if you want it to use the less than or equals to give you 10 information with respect to customer ID, this is what you do. 10 customer IDs, you would have to do less than or equals to 10 to give you 10 as well. Now we have 10 records. Now that is with respect to the less than or equals to operators. You cannot use this, like I said, for a categorical column. You can't say where the contact name is greater than Maria Anders. I mean, SQL will be confused. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. This is not a figure. Now, you can also switch it the other way. You can use the greater than as well. So let's assume that you want to get people that are more than the customer ID 10. You don't want customer ID 1, you don't want 2, you don't want 3, you don't want 4. You want it to start from the guys with customer ID 11 upwards. Now, remember, so if I do all again, so let me do all. We have 91 entries in the customer stable, which means that we have 91 unique customer IDs. So assuming that I want only guys from customer ID 50 and above, what will I do? I will go to here. This is me restoring it back. And I will say where, remember that I said from customer ID 50 and above. The question is very important. From customer ID 50, which means I want it to include 50. So I'm going to do greater than or equals to 50. And the result we will get here is going to contain the guys with customer ID 50 and above. Now, if I don't want 50 to be included in the customer ID, what will I do? I just need to take off the equals to, and then what you will see here will be from 51 and above. So the records has reduced to 41 records as against 42 records. I hope it's getting interesting. Now, there is also one more thing I can do with respect to comparison operators. I can say that I don't want to see a certain information. So, for instance, let's go back to the country where we talked about the country being Germany or being Mexico. Now, I want all of this information, but I don't want them to be from Germany. I want Germany to be out of the record I'm going to get. Remember when we did the guys that came from Germany then? So where keyword, where country, we did where country equals Germany. And then we ran. Now, look at these maths. How many information do we have with respect to the countries in Germany? We have 11 records. Now, the total record we have in the customer's information is 91 records, which means that if I'm going to be returning this information with the guys that are not in Germany non-inclusive, which means I should be having 80 records. Am I correct? I want to get all of this information, but I don't want Germany to be involved, to be included in my result. What will I do? I can use the not equals to a operator, not equals to. So there are two ways you can write your not equals to. You either write it this way, which returns not equals to Germany, or you write it this way, exclamation mark and your equals to. So the exclamation mark sounds as not, while the equals to says as not equal. So this is not equals to. So you can write it in either way. Although because SQL is quite broad and there are different hosts that host SQL. We have the Oracle server, we have the Microsoft SQL, we have the DB2 by IBM, and many more. Some may take this, while some may not take this, but either ways, those are the two standard ways to write it. Not equals Germany. When I run this, it's going to give me all information except the guys in Germany. So I'm running it right now, and you can see that we have 80 records as against 91 records because the 11 records of the German guys have been taken away. Let me run it the other way I said, and then you'll see that it should give the same result. So I'm running it again using the second format, and you can see that it also returns 80, which is, so both works according to this compiler. So note that you can also say not equals to a certain, and then it is not limited to how I'm using it, mind you. If you are in a database of 1 billion rows per day, and you are querying from a base of, say, 10 billion records, trust me, this is the same way it works. Don't think that because I'm working on 91, when you get to a bigger database, it's confusing. No, it's the same thing. And that's part of the sweet things about SQL. It runs the same way. It is applicable. It is reusable in any format. Now, imagine this information here increases from the information in the customers table increases from 91 to maybe 200 or 300. Trust me, it is the same way. It doesn't matter that it has scaled. Whether it scales, it still runs the same way. Are we clear on that? So now we've talked about the equals to operator we've talked about the not equals to operator, we've talked about the greater than, we've talked about the less than, we've talked about greater than or equals to, and we have talked about less than or equals to, right? Fantastic. That is how to use comparison operators. So now, let's just, play around again and, see, let's enjoy ourselves, and then let's see how it works, knowing that you can apply this whichever way. So now I want the guys that their city is in Berlin. I want L from customers where their city is in Berlin. I just come here and then I say where city equals Berlin, and I run this. And it shows that there's just one entry, even though we have 11 guys from Germany, we only have one person who resides in Berlin. So I'm going to show us again for cancellation of doubts. Germany. And now I'm running this. So now if you look at the cities here, all of the 11 information, you can see we have Berlin in the city, Mannheim, Aachen, München, Brandenburg, Frankfurt, Leipzig, Köln, and we don't have 2 records that have Berlin. So I hope that is very clear now. All right, now let's go further and let's get it more interesting. And like I said, it doesn't matter the table, it doesn't matter where you find yourself. So let's do a quick test concerning the products now. Let's go to products table. So to go to the product table, just look at the right side of your pane and select products like I am doing right now. So I'm going to select products now, and by default, it has taken me to the products table. And now it's saying select all from products. It says 77 records. And if you look at here, number of records, we have 77. Now, this is going to be a little bit more interesting to use when you are doing your greater than or less than. So I want to see all the products that their price is more than 18. So yeah, yes, since we're in the UK, so let's say 18 pounds. I want to see all the products because the unit is actually not here. So let's assume is pounds. So I want to get all the products that is beyond 50 pounds, for instance, all products that is higher than 50 pounds. So I say select all from products where price, because this is the column that contains that information, where price is greater than 50. So maybe you are trying to do your checks and you're trying to confirm what you want to buy, and you know that you want to, Now we have, of the 77 entries, we have 7 information in which their products, the product price is higher than 50 pounds. And this is it. So let us also talk about how to order or how to sort information from a column or in a table. Now that we have this information here, you will see that 97 comes first with the product ID 9, and the product ID 18 has the price 62 pound 50. One has 123 pound 79. Now, I don't like to see this information this way. I want it a little bit more structured because we are organized people. That's why we're using SQL, and that's why we use it in the database. I want it to arrange in a certain order, and I want it to arrange from lowest to highest, which means I want 62 to come first. Oh no, 53 is the list here. I want 53 to come first, I want 55 to come next. I want
Don't forget to
62.
answer. Please do not forget to answer Karen's question. I think Karen asked, when do we use else and null?
Oh, fantastic. Else is not used here. And else is not used. Else is used when you're using a case statement. And it is at a level of writing SQL, it will not be taught at the introductory stage so that you don't get confused. The null, we're going to talk about it, okay? But the else is not something you use. So when you want to use else is where you use your case statements, that's conditional statements. So when this is this, when that is that, else, then run this. That is their conditional statement. It's not for this introductory class as we speak, so you don't get confused. But null, I'm going to talk about null. I'll ensure not to talk about null. So right now, back to what we're saying, I want to order it by price. I want to arrange it, which means I want 52, I want 53 to come first, 55 follows. And this is going to change what the result in this place is going to look like. So I'm just going to add the order keyword, order by price, because that is the column that I want to arrange. I'll say order by price, and I'm going to leave it this way and run it. Now you can see that 53, the result remains the same, but the way it is shaped, the way it is their positioned has changed. 53 that was down before is now up, and they are now arranged in order. So what if I want 263 to come first? I want 123 to come next, 97 to follow. I want it invertedly. All I need to do is say order by price, and I'm going to put DESC. DESC here means in descending order. I'm going to run that, and you're going to see the results, the same results, but different display. Right now, this is how it works.
I think you might want to look at Matthew's question, but maybe it can make us understand better what he's trying to ask. Matthew, please, can you explain what exactly you're trying to ask? Can you just speak to us? Hello, Ali, can you see Matthew's question?
Yes. So I'm looking at it, and what Matthew is saying is really not a question. He's just trying to buttress what I explained with respect to case statement.
Oh, beautiful.
So Matthew, yes, when I said case, when this is this, so when x equal to 1, then y, else, and so this is with respect to what Karen asked as per when do we use else. And I said you use else when you're using a case statement. Okay, so, that's fantastic. Matthew said he used to be a data steward for a financial company, which makes a lot of sense. It's good to have you here. So Matthew just buttressed what I was explaining with respect to when you use else, which is when you're using a case statement. And like I said, we're not going to be touching it at the introductory level, so you don't get confused. We want you to enjoy this journey, and we want you to really understand it as we proceed. So now we have talked about how to also order. You can order in ascending order, or you can order in descending order. When you want to order in descending order, you can either leave it in ascending order, rather. You can either leave it this way and run it, or you can also go the extra mile and do ASC. ASC gives you the same thing. It gives you the same result. But when you use DESC, that is in descending order. DESC, you're saying that give me this result, order it, sort it in descending order. Now, recall the result is actually in your mind, what you want to get in your mind. There's no limit to what you can do with SQL. There may be limits to the things you think about. Now, look at it. I want price that is less than 50 pounds, but I want them arranged in descending order as well, which means that in whatever price you're going to be seeing, you're not going to be seeing 50. You're going to be seeing information less than 50. So I run this. When I run this, you're going to be seeing the information from 49 onwards, right? And then that's how you are going to order by. Now, instead of getting, you're going to be getting 70 rows because 70 rows are less than, remember the last one we did was greater than 50 and we had 7 rows. Now we're saying less than 50 and now we have, which means that there is no one that falls on 50 exactly. If there's anyone that falls on 50 exactly, it will be missed out here. Okay. So let's proceed to talk about logical operators. So the logical operators we're going to be talking about here, we're going to be talking about and, in, or, between, and like. Relax, don't be baffled or startled, you're going to enjoy it. So let us go back to the customers table. Now, we said, initially we said we were trying to filter, and now that we're trying to filter, we've said we want to use, you can filter using any column of your choice. You can filter directly if you have any information of what exactly you're looking for. And you can filter also if you have a range of what you're looking for. Now, I want information of guys that have, of the customers that their ID is not up to 50, which means I am looking at just 50 customers. I'm looking at just 50 customers, people that have their customer ID from 1 to 50. But I also don't want just 50 of them. I want only the guys that their country is in UK. How am I going to go about it? I just need to add the AND operator to the where clause. I say where customer ID is less than or equals to 50. Remember, I want 50 inclusive. I want 50 information. Guys with customer ID 1 to 50. So this covers that part. And when you run it, it's going to give you 50 records. I want to filter it further. I want guys that their country is in UK. I don't want Germany. I don't want Mexico. I don't want all of these. I want those whose their country is in UK. What I just need to do is continue the filtering with this logical operator and say, and. So, and what am I going to be using this time? And country. I always forget I can't copy and paste this. My bad. Country equals UK. I'm going to string it because it's the standard practice, and I'm going to run it. Now my information has sieved down further to say 5. And if you look at this result, you will see that none of them have a customer ID that is greater than 50. They are within 50 downwards. So we have 4, 11, 19, 38. And they are all what? And they are all from UK. Fantastic. So now I want to even drill down further. And I say, okay, I don't want these guys alone. I only want guys that are in London. I don't want coast. What will I do? I go further and I add another and city not equals, or no, I'll just say, and since I know that is London I'm looking for, I'll just say add city, where's and city equals London. London. And I'm going to run it. The reason I did not use not equals coast is because I am assuming that I'm assuming that I have 100 million records or 1 million records, and I cannot start looking at it one by one, but I know what I want. I know what I am looking for. So I'm just writing it directly. So I'm going to run this and I'm going to have London. How many records do I have? 4 records. I can even go further and say, okay, this is fine, but I want to change the structure. And I say, order by. I want you know, if you see the way the customer ID column is ordered now, it is ordered in ascending order as 4, 11, 16, 19. Now I want to see it differently. I want to order it by customer ID, order by customer ID, DSC. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to see it from 19, 16, 11, and 4 in the presentation. I go ahead and I run this, and then you have your results. I'm sure you're enjoying it right now. So all of that which we've spoken about, which is the equals to, not equals to, greater than, less than, greater than or equals to, less than or equals to, and the and, you can use them together. You can incorporate all of these in your filtering to make your job or to make your search more interesting and to make your analysis clearer. All right, now we're done with the AND operator. Let's talk about the IN operator. For instance, so I'm going to go back to the all, select all from customers. Now, I want to get some selected kind of guys. Now, I want to get some selected kind of guys. So quickly, let us do something. If you look at this column called country, you will see that there are many countries in it that are showing repeatedly. France, Portugal. But now I want to even know, I want to see how many countries in total are even in this unique countries. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use the distinct word. Select distinct country. From customers. This will show me just the countries, but it is not going to repeat the countries. It's just going to give me just countries in the unique expression. So I'm going to do select distinct country from it. And now out of the 91 records, we have 21 records. Shows that we have 21 unique, we have 21 unique countries here. All right. Now that we've seen it and you've seen the display, let us look at, I now want information. So now that I know that I've seen all my countries, I want information from Argentina, Canada, UK, and Poland selectively. I want information from Argentina, Canada, UK, and Poland. So I'm going to go back to my select all from customers. So I will say select all from customers, where country. So let me run this select all from customers first so you can see it. Okay, so select all from customers. Say where country. That is where you now use the in operator. In now you will now pass the what information you want about the country into a list. Argentina. Then I will put a comma. Canada. I'll put a comma. UK. And then Poland. Yeah. This is me being direct. Remember, we used equals to, and when we used equals to, we were talking to one information. one entry. Now we are using a list of entries. We're doing more than one. So I'm running it, and then you will see that the information it will return to me is going to be information of all the guys in Argentina, Canada, UK, and Poland. Now, if you look at this, you will see all of this. You'll see that you will not see any information that is outside all of these 4 countries that I have called. Now, that's how to use the in operator. Okay, now let us use the word, let's go with the word between. Between is also another keyword, another logical operator that you cannot use with qualitative or categorical information. You can only use it within a range of information. Now, when you say a range, you can only do the range on qualitative columns, such as customer ID, or when I want to use range, I like to use the product table. Now, I want to select all from products. Now, where I want to select guys that are from, I want to select guys that are from, so first of all, I will select all from products, and I will order it by price so that I can see it from highest to lowest. Order by price. And when you order by price, you see the list here, price you're seeing is £2.50, while the highest you're seeing is £263.50. But I want it to be within a range. I don't want all of it. I want it to be within a range. So within a range of £18 and £60. That is where you use the word, the operator between. Now I'm going to say, select all from products where price between 18 and 60. I can decide to order it by price, or I can decide not to order it by price. So should I order it by price? Okay, let me order it by price. So I'm going to run this, and then you're going to see that it will only give me information between these, within this. The highest you're going to see here should be 55. All right, 55. So how many information do we have here? We have 42 records as against 77 records. Okay, so that is how to use the keyword, the between operator. And note, like I said, you can only use it on quantitative columns with numbers, so that you can pick a range. All right. I would also like to use the word, introduce you to the keyword or. Remember when we were at the customers table, we talked about getting guys that are from Germany, where the customer ID is less than 50. Okay, so we said where customer ID allow me to check for questions. Okay, no question yet. Okay, I take it that I must be very, very, detailed. Where customer ID is less than or equals to 50, we said, and the country equals Germany. Now, we have how many information here? We have 6. Note, we have 6. But let us now assume that I don't want, this is not what I want. I want either of both conditions to match. So your customer ID can be either less than 50 either less than or equals to 50, or you're from Germany. Now, which means that on priority, I want your customer ID to be less than or equals to 50. But also, not necessarily that. Your country can also be from Germany. Your customer ID doesn't have to be less than or equals to 50 at the point. At that point, your customer ID could be 91, it could be 90, it could be 80. But I want you to also come from Germany. Remember, the result we have here means that their customer ID is less than or equals to 50, and they are from Germany, which means those conditions must be met. That is why we have these 6 records we're seeing here, which means the customer ID, you don't see anyone that is up to 50 here, and you don't see anyone that is not in Germany. Now, I will now go here and I will say, because that is not what I want you to come from Germany, irrespective of what your customer ID says. That is when you use the OR operator. So I'm going to run this. You're going to see that right now I'm going to have 55 records as against 6 records that I had, which means that all of the guys you're seeing that are in Mexico and all of that, their customer ID is less than 50 or equals to 50. But you will see these guys that are from Germany, not all of them have their customer ID less than 50. So for instance, this guy now has 63, has 79. But if you note, they will all be from Germany. That is because I have used the OR operator to say your customer ID has to be less than or equals to 50. That's one. And also, even if your customer ID is greater than your country, should be Germany. That is how to use the OR operator. So I will be looking out for questions. Okay, I don't have any question yet. So I take it that you understand all of this information. Now, notes, let me give you some hints as well to make you understand it better. You cannot use AND for one, when you are combining the AND operator, you cannot use it for one column. So you cannot say where the customer ID is less than or equals to 50 and customer ID is greater than 50. You're confusing it. I mean, what are you saying? So you're talking about different columns. That is where your condition has to filter even further. And when you're using the OR as well, you cannot use the same column. You can't say where the customer ID is less than or equals to 50, or customer ID is greater than, I mean, that's confusing. So you should be relating to 2 different columns or 2 different fields when you're using these operators. Now, back to Karen's question before we, round up. This compiler, the way it works is does not have any null entry. But then I'm going to show you how it works so that you can, just in case you want to use it some other time. So select all from customers where customer ID. So let's say customer ID in an instance where, for instance, say the country now is null. Maybe there's no entry given for country. It happens when you go into a database. The country does not exist. Maybe you've not discovered the country yet. You can leave it as null, and then you go back and update it later when you have it. So let's say you want to get, let's say, for instance, all of the countries are null. All of the countries, we have some countries that are null, that are not identified yet. And you want to get only those that their countries have not been identified yet. So what you will do is, in this case, you say get, which is select all from customers where country is null. That's how it works. So when you run this, but because this compiler or because this does not have that, so when you run it, you won't see any record because every one of them have a record. But this is how to use the null. You can also use the not null. That is, but then when you use the not null at this point, it will give you everything because there is nobody that has null. So that is how to use the not operator as well. So you can use when it comes to not, you can use not is not null. It's not null here is saying that maybe, for instance, you have some null entries in your data, but you want to sieve out the null guys. You don't want them. You want to only work with the ones you know. That is when you use not null. Is not null. But then if you want to work with the ones that have null, that have not been yet identified, you can use it as is null. That is how to use the not and the null operator. So right now we are going to be putting the class to an end so that I hope you enjoyed the class. I hope you enjoyed it. Next time, we are going to be continuing our journey on data analysis, and I hope you had some fun. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Olawale. You really overhauled everything we already knew about SQL. And for the beginners, they are actually enjoying the class and they enjoyed everything you have taught us. And the next class, we would ensure that we take it further. And, even today's class went beyond what I would call fundamentals because you have actually touched a lot when it comes to querying the database. Really appreciate that. And I'll be sharing the link for today's class video on the next email we send across so that anyone who wants to revisit whatever we have learned today can always have it handy. All right. Thank you so much. And first of all, I apologize for taking a bit longer than it should, but I think I can see it's actually worth it. It's actually worth it. So if you have further questions, you can always send me emails and I would reach out to the facilitator for you. Thank you so much for joining today's class and enjoy the rest of your weekend.